My dad's cheating scandal didn't just humiliate our family, it exposed a lifelong pattern of favoritism that left us all reeling. Who did he choose to protect, and can our family survive the betrayal? What happens next will shock you. I never thought a simple dinner out would turn into the most humiliating and eye-opening night of my life. My father, Robert, has always been the kind of man who thrives on appearances. He loves walking into a room and having heads turn. That's why he picked the fanciest Italian restaurant in town for what was supposed to be a family night. My mom, Lisa, was already annoyed because he didn't even ask her where she wanted to go. He'd just announced, "We're going to Ferrer's at 7, dress nice." So, there we were, me, my mom, my dad, and my younger sister Emily. Ferrer's is the kind of place with chandeliers and waiters who pretend they don't notice you can't pronounce the wine list. Everything was going smoothly at first. Dad was in his element, cracking jokes with the server, bragging about a new client he landed, making sure everyone in earshot knew he was important. Then it happened. The hostess walked over with this woman, tall, blonde, dressed way too nicely for a Tuesday night. And the way Dad's face dropped, I swear my stomach knew something before my brain caught up. Mom noticed too. "Robert," the woman said with this fake sweet smile, "I didn't know you'd be here." My dad's foot clattered against his plate. Clara, wow, what a surprise." Mom's voice cut sharp. "Who's Clara?" Emily just froze, gripping her napkin like it was a lifeline. I stayed quiet because I wanted to see how deep this hole was going to get. "Oh, just someone from work," Dad stammered. But Clara laughed in this way that made my skin crawl. "Work? Is that what we're calling late night martinis now?" I swear you could feel every set of eyes in that restaurant turned to us. Mom's face went white, then red, like she was about to explode. "Excuse me," she hissed, gripping her wine glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. Dad reached across the table, like that would calm her down. "Lisa, it's not what you think." But Clara clearly wasn't done. "Robert, you promised me last week you'd talk to her. You said you do." "Stop." His voice came out so sharp even Emily jumped. It was like a bomb went off. Mom pushed back her chest so hard it screeched against the floor. "You've got to be kidding me, in front of our kids?" I wanted to crawl under the table, but at the same time I couldn't look away. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. And the worst part? Instead of denying it, instead of defending Mom, Dad looked at Emily. Not me. Not his wife. Emily. And he said, "Sweetheart, let's just keep calm, okay?" That's when it hit me. Dad wasn't just caught cheating. He was already choosing favourites, right there in front of us. The second Dad said, "Sweetheart, let's just keep calm, okay?" While looking straight at Emily, I felt like I'd been sapped. My mom was shaking, her hands clenched at her sides, and I was just invisible. Typical. Dad has always had a soft spot for Emily, like she can do no wrong. But to see him prioritise her comfort over the complete meltdown happening at the table, that was a new level of cruel. Emily's eyes welled up instantly. "Dad, what's going on? Who is she?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Before he could answer, Mom leaned across the table, practically spitting venom. "Don't you dare comfort her when you've just humiliated all of us." The restaurant was dead silent now. Even the waiter who'd been halfway to our table with a bottle of wine had done a full U-turn. I caught sight of a couple whispering at the next table, one of them covering their mouth like they couldn't believe what they were hearing. Clara, apparently loving the chaos she caused, gave the smug shrug. "Well, it looks like you didn't talk to her yet. Guess I'll leave you to it, Robert." She smirked, and Mom actually smirked, and then walked out, her heels clicking against the marble floor like gunshots. As soon as the door closed, Mom erupted. "You absolute coward. How long has this been going on?" Dev rubbed his temples, muttering, "Not here, Lisa, please, not in front of everyone." "Not here?" Mom's voice was rising with each word. "You dragged us here, Robert. You set the stage for your little double life to implode." Emily was crying openly now, and Dad wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her in close. I swear something in me snapped right there. "Unbelievable," I said, loud enough that his head jerked toward me. "You're worried about our feelings, but not Mom's and not mine." He had the nerve to look confused. "I'm trying to protect both of you." "Birth?" I cut him off. "Stop pretending, Dad. You always pick her, always, and now you're doing it in front of everyone like it doesn't even matter that I'm sitting right here." Mom slammed her napkin on the table. "He's been doing it for years. Don't act surprised." She turned to me, her eyes fierce but soft at the same time. "This isn't about you or Emily, it's about him being selfish." Dad's face twisted like he was about to argue, but then he just deflated. He let go of Emily and leaned back in his chair, staring at the untouched pasta in front of him. "Let's just go home," he muttered. Mom stood up immediately. "No, Robert, you go home. I'm not letting my kids sit here another second while you pretend like this can be swept under the rug." Emily wiped her eyes, whispering, "But Mom?" "No, Em." Mom's tone was sharp final. "He made this mess. We're not cleaning it up for him." And just like that, we left him sitting there, alone, while the entire restaurant stared. By the time we got home, the tension in the car was suffocating. Emily sat in the back, silently sobbing into her hoodie, and Mom didn't say a word for the first 10 minutes. I tried to break the silence. "I can't believe he just left us like that." Mom let out a heavy sigh, gripping the steering wheel like it was about to snap. "Neither can I, but it's good we left. I refuse to let him turn our family into some theatre for his selfish needs." Emily peeked at me through her bangs. "I feel weird. I don't understand why he likes me more than you or Mom." Her voice was small, almost apologetic. I clenched my fist, trying to keep my voice calm. "It's not your fault, Em. You didn't do anything. He's the one with the problem." Mom glanced at me in the rearview mirror, her eyes tight but sharp. "Your father has always played favourites, but this is on another level. I think he honestly believes that Emily can't do any wrong, while the rest of us are just obstacles." Emily sniffled. But I don't want him to like me more than you guys. It feels wrong. I reached over and squeezed her hand. It is wrong, and it's not fair, but at least now we know who he really is. We pulled into the driveway, and the silence in the house felt heavier than usual. Dad wasn't home yet, which was probably for the best. Mom grabbed a glass of water from the kitchen and leaned against the counter. We're going to have to talk to him eventually, but not tonight. Tonight, we need to process. I sank into the couch, staring at the wall. I could still picture the way Dad had looked at Emily in the restaurant. The favoritism, the blind indulgence it cut deep. I realised then that it wasn't just the cheating scandal that hurt. It was that he could hurt Mom and me so openly and still seem untouchable in his own mind. Emily curled up next to me, burying her face in my shoulder. I wish things could go back to normal, she whispered. I swallowed hard. Me too, but normal doesn't exist in that house anymore, at least, not with him being like this. Mom came over and sat beside us. We'll get through this, but it's going to take time and probably some hard conversations. Just then, the front door opened and Dad stepped in. His eyes were bloodshot, like he'd been crying or arguing with someone. He looked at us hesitant and sure. Lisa, Mom's expression was icy. Just don't, not yet. You've done enough damage for one night. Dad's mouth opened, then closed. He looked between Emily and me, as if trying to figure out who to placate first. And I realised something. He had no idea how much he'd shattered the family. Not fully. Emily whispered again, barely audible. Why does he always get a say in everything? And I couldn't answer. Because tonight had shown me the harshest truth. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you the most. The next morning, Dad didn't come down for breakfast. Mom didn't say anything, and neither did I. Emily barely touched her cereal, still curled up in her chair. But I knew we couldn't avoid it forever. Eventually, Mom made the first move. Robert, we need to talk now. Her voice was firm, no room for excuses. He appeared in the doorway, looking worn, dishevelled, like he'd just crawled out of the mess he'd made. Lisa, I'm sorry. Mom shook her head. Sorry doesn't cut it. You humiliated me in front of our kids. You humiliated your family. And the way you treat Emily like she's the only one who matters, it's cruel. It's favoritism, Robert, and it's not okay. I stepped forward, my hands trembling with anger. You think it's okay to comfort her while completely ignoring Mom and me, after everything? Do you even realise how damaging this is? Dad's eyes flicked at Emily. She flinched under his gaze. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, he stammered. Of course you didn't, Mom said, stripping with sarcasm. You only care about appearances and about keeping your precious favourite daughter happy. That's what this has always been about. Emily's little voice cut in, shaky but determined. Ed, why do you always pick me over everyone else? It makes me feel, I don't know, guilty. I don't like it. He blinked at her like he hadn't expected this. Sweetheart, it's complicated, I adjusted her. No, it's not complicated, I snapped. It's selfish. You've been manipulating everyone to feel better about yourself, and you use Clara as some kind of proof that you're still desirable or powerful, but you forgot about us. Mom leaned closer. We need honesty, Robert, not excuses. And we need boundaries, because if you think you can keep doing this, you're wrong. For a long moment, he just stood there, looking like a man stripped of every mask he'd worn. Then he exhaled, slow and shaky. I've messed up. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I even deserve to fix it. Emily sniffled and whispered, Maybe you need to see that we matter too, that we're not just props in your life. His head sank. I see that now. I really do. I've been blind and selfish. I'm sorry to all of you. Mom's expression softened slightly, though her eyes were still sharp. Sorry is only the first step. Actions matter now. You're going to have to earn back trust, Robert, not just with Emily, with me, with your whole family. He nodded slowly, swallowing hard. I understand, and I will try. I swear I'll try. For the first time in a long while, there was a quiet pause in the room of fragile, uneasy truths. Emily wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. I want things to be normal. I don't want anyone to get hurt anymore. Mom placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we'll start fixing this together, but it's going to be hard, and nothing changes overnight. I sat back, letting the words sink in. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope that maybe our family could survive the damage Dad had caused. But I knew it would take time, and a lot of courage to face the scars he had left behind. The days after the restaurant incident were tense but quiet. Dad didn't try to swoop in with grand gestures or empty apologies, at least, not immediately. Instead, he started small, helping with dishes, asking Emily about her homework, even trying to have normal conversations with me. But every time he looked at Emily with that soft, indulgent smile, my chest tightened. I wasn't sure if I could ever see him the same way again. Mom, meanwhile, had taken charge. She set rules for Dad, boundaries that he couldn't cross without consequences. No more spontaneous family outings that involved surprises, she said sternly one evening. No favoritism. We sit at the table together, we talk to each other equally, and you respect that. Dad had nodded, eyes downcast, but I could tell he was internalizing it. I overheard him whispering to himself in the kitchen, I've got to make this right, I can't keep losing them like this. Emily, on the other hand, was conflicted. She loved Dad, always had, and part of her still craved his approval. But she also remembered the embarrassment in the restaurant and Mom's warning, favoritism wasn't love, it was manipulation. One night, she came to me in the living room, fidgeting with her hoodie. I don't want him to like me more, she admitted quietly. I want him to like all of us the same way. I nodded, understanding perfectly. Me too, Em, that's all any of us want, and I think he's starting to realise that, even if he's slow about it. The tension wasn't gone though. Dinner conversations were careful, almost surgical. Dad's attempts at humour sometimes fell flat, and I could see Mom's scepticism in her narrowed eyes. But there were glimmers of change. He listened more than he spoke, asked questions without immediately turning the attention to himself, and genuinely tried to include me in plans rather than focusing on Emily. One night, during a quiet evening of board games, Dad leaned back in his chair and said softly, "I know I've screwed up more than I can even say. I don't expect forgiveness right away, but I want you both to know I'm going to try every day to be better." Mom gave a small, reluctant smile. "Actions, Robert. That's how you prove it, not words." I watched Emily nod, her little friend easing as she realised he meant it. And for the first time in weeks, it felt like there might actually be a path forward. A family still fractured, yes, but maybe capable of healing. Still, I couldn't shake the image of Clara in that restaurant, the way Dad had chosen her over us in front of everyone. That memory lingered, a reminder of just how deep favoritism and deception had run. It was a scar that wouldn't fade overnight, but with time, effort, and honesty, maybe it could stop bleeding. I realised something essential at night. Families don't just survive scandals, they survive because people make hard choices, face the truth, and refuse to let toxic patterns define them. And as I looked at Dad, quietly shuffling the game pieces and smiling at Emily when she won, I felt a tiny spark of cautious hope that maybe, just maybe, we could all find a way to be a family again. A week later, things seemed almost normal. Dad was making an effort, Mom was cautiously optimistic, and Emily was starting to smile again without the constant shadow of fear. But I knew better, he hadn't fully confronted the favoritism issue, and until he did, the tension would linger like a storm cloud. It came to a head one evening at dinner. Dad had made spaghetti Mom's request, and everyone was seated, the table feeling calm but fragile. Emily was chatting happily about her day at school, and for the first time, I thought we might have a peaceful meal. Then Dad did it. I'm really proud of how you handled that project at school," he said, and reached across to ruffle her hair. I froze fork halfway to my mouth. Mom's hand tightened around her napkin. "Dad," I said, voice slow but cutting, "can we not make her the centre of every conversation?" He blinked, surprised. "I'm just proud of her." Mom's eyes snapped to him, sharp and unwavering. "Robert, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You always single her out, every accomplishment, every choice. She's the golden child, and you do it without even noticing how it makes the rest of us feel, including me." Dad's face paled, and for the first time I saw real guilt. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I don't mean to." "No, listen," I said, trying to keep calm. "You need to acknowledge it, not excuses, not deflections, just the truth." He took a deep breath and met our eyes. "Okay, you're right. I've always favoured Emily, and I didn't even realise how damaging that's been. I thought I was encouraging her, but I can see now I've been neglecting both of you, and Mom, I've hurt you the most." Emily's lower lip trembled. "You really mean that?" "Yes," he said, voice raw. "I see it now, and I want to fix it." Mom's shoulders sagged slightly, her stern demeanour softening. "Seeing it is the first step, Robert. Actions will prove the rest, and I mean consistent actions, not just words." I could feel a tension release, a little at least. Emily leaned into him, tentative but hopeful. "I want to help, Dad. I don't want you to keep hurting everyone." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I know, and I'll do my best, I promise. Every day I'll work on being fair, on noticing all of you, not just Emily." For the first time in weeks, the room felt like a family again. Fragile, imperfect, and cautious, but still a family. Mom picked up her fork and smiled faintly. Emily beamed with relief, and I finally let myself relax just a little. I realised then that favoritism isn't just about who you praise or spend time with, it's about the choices you make every day and the effort you put into treating everyone equally. And tonight, Dad had finally begun to understand that truth. There were still scars, sure. Trust takes time to rebuild. But for the first time, it felt like we were moving in the right direction. And maybe that was enough to start healing the wounds he'd caused. A month passed, and slowly but genuinely the house started to feel like home again. Dad's efforts weren't perfect, but they were consistent. He started asking for input from both Mom and me before making decisions. He included Emily without letting her overshadow the rest of us. The small gestures mattered. Dad cooked breakfast for everyone, he joined us for game nights, and even helped with Emily's school projects without showing favoritism. Mom remained cautiously optimistic, watching for old patterns. "I'm not letting you slip back into your old ways," she warned him one evening as we all sat around the kitchen table. Dad laughed softly, a little ashamed. I know, and I'm not going to." Emily seemed relieved. "It feels normal again," she said, a rare and guarded smile on her face. I nodded, feeling the tension in my chest finally loosen. But the biggest change wasn't just the external effort, it was the honesty. Dad started talking to us about his mistakes, not just apologising, but explaining why he did what he did and how he planned to do better. It was awkward and uncomfortable, but it was real. One night, as Mom and I were clearing the dishes from dinner, she paused and looked at me. "You know," she said softly, "this is the first time I feel like we actually have a chance of a family dynamic. It's going to take work, but he's trying." I nodded, watching Dad in the living room with Emily helping her with a puzzle. His eyes were careful, attentive, and for once, equally distributed across all of us. He wasn't perfect, he never would be, but he was finally aware of the impact of his actions, and that awareness made all the difference. That evening, we sat together on the couch, watching a movie. Emily snuggled between us. Mom rested her head on Dad's shoulder for the first time in weeks, and I realised we were actually laughing again. Small laughs, cautious ones but genuine. I knew that scars would remain. The memory of the restaurant, Clara, and Dad's favoritism would never completely disappear. But now, we had boundaries, communication, and a sense of accountability. Cheating scandal might have been the spark that revealed everything broken, but it also forced us to confront truths we'd ignored for too long. In the end, it wasn't about perfect behaviour, it was about trying, every day, to do better. And that night, as I glanced at my family, I realised that sometimes the hardest moments can lead to the most important growth. For the first time, I felt hope that our family could survive the mistakes, betrayals, and favouritism and maybe even thrive. We were bruised, yes. But we were together, and somehow that made all the difference.